Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 143, Good Quill Hunting. The episode begins with Ash and the gang lost in a forest as usual, as Brock looked in his guidebook, trying to find a way out. He eventually came to the conclusion that there was probably something wrong with his guidebook, and that's why they were lost, but Misty just thought they were being stupid. Just then, a dude named Koji approaches, and angrily asks Ash and the gang if they'd found any Cyndaquil, stating that the area was supposed to have a whole bunch of them. Ash and the gang deny, but this doesn't stop Ash from getting excited, as soon as he heard about the Cyndaquil, he immediately wanted to try and find one. Just like Koji did. This causes him to ignore Koji's continued questioning as he goes off and looks for Cyndaquil in a bush. Koji gets even more angry as he demands Ash to stay away from the Cyndaquil, stating that only he should be allowed to capture them. Brock and Misty obviously rebut this, claiming that if the Pokemon weren't his, he had no reason to stop another trainer from catching them. This just makes Koji even more bitchy, and he runs off, as does Ash, in a different direction, to go look for the Cyndaquil. When Misty and Brock turn around after dealing with Koji, they realize that Ash isn't there, and immediately go to look for him. As Misty and Brock commence their search, Team Rocket are spying on them as usual. Although they didn't see Ash with them, they assumed that he was just walking a bit far behind, and stated their plan to get Pikachu as usual, stating that they now had a new machine in order to accomplish this goal. However, they complained, ranting to each other about what they had to do to afford this machine, as they had to do a whole bunch of grunt-like jobs, such as working at a restaurant or working at a construction site, which they were not fond of. They believed themselves to be too special for regular jobs, and instead wanted to be the top members of Team Rocket, like they should be. At least they could now attempt this with their new machine that they had been able to afford, a giant Meowth robot, which they intended to use to capture Pikachu. So, they went up and confronted Misty and Brock. But as they did their motto atop of the robot, they realized that Ash in fact wasn't with them, so they immediately ran away from Brock and Misty, not caring about them whatsoever, and ran off into the forest in search of Ash. They quickly managed to locate him, as he was still looking for a Cyndaquil, and begin to perform their motto to him as well. However, Ash stops them by using a Thunderbolt on the mech. However, Team Rocket just laughs as they reveal that the mech was electric-proof and instead absorbed the electricity to give it more power. James then used this power to press a button in the Meowth robot control room that fired several bubblegum bombs at Ash. He decides to retreat, running through the robot's legs in the process to avoid more bubblegum bombs, and the Meowth robot reaches down to try and catch him while he was between its legs, and this just causes it to reach a little too far and fall to the ground. Ash takes this opportunity to run away even further and hide in some nearby bushes. Despite being covered by all the nearby trees and bushes, Ash was still able to be spotted by Team Rocket, as due to the immense amount of money that they spent on this mech, it actually had a feature that a mech usually didn't have, which was an I-beam that was able to track targets from behind certain things. So they spotted Ash, who had now moved to some nearby trees to take cover, as opposed to the bushes, and fired more bubblegum bombs at him. However, Ash was able to dodge these as he ran away even further, causing the Meowth robot to chase after him some more. But while it was chasing, it tripped over a tree root and fell to the ground, allowing Ash to gain some serious headway until he arrived at a cliff with several cave-like holes in it. In one of these holes, he spotted none other than a Cyndaquil. Ash is ecstatic and uses his Pokedex to find out more information on the Cyndaquil, which tells him that it was usually mild-tempered but emits flames from its back when it's upset. Ash was obviously still determined to catch the Cyndaquil, so he proceeded to climb up in an attempt to reach it, only to be spotted by none other than Koji. Obviously, Koji was unhappy with Ash wanting to catch the Cyndaquil, so he tried to stop him so he could get the Cyndaquil all to himself by having his Sand Slash use Sand Attack, which caused the sand to blow into Ash's face, making him fall down the cliff. Ash then spots Koji as he climbs up ahead of him and yells at him for his unfair tactics of using this goddamn Sand Attack. Koji simply laughs it off though, and states that he would be the one to catch the Cyndaquil as he commands his Sand Slash to attack it, but this causes Cyndaquil to retreat further into one of the caves, therefore causing Koji to run after it. Ash attempts to climb back up the cliff to pursue, but right as he's about to enter the cave, he's stopped by Team Rocket, who have appeared once again. However, Team Rocket's unable to do anything, as Ash simply yells at them to go the fuck away, stating he didn't have time for them as he runs into the cave. He's soon greeted by the entrances to several even smaller caves inside of this cave, and realizes that Cyndaquil could have gone into each one, so he simply stands there, not sure which one to choose, when suddenly he spots Cyndaquil run past him, as Ash wonders why the Cyndaquil was behind him when it should have been ahead since it went in first. However, it's soon revealed that it's because the Cyndaquil was doing everything in its power to escape from Koji and his Sandslash, who were chasing it around the cave. In the process, Ash gets trampled by the Sandslash, allowing Koji to storm off ahead in search of Cyndaquil, leaving Ash in the dust. Meanwhile, Team Rocket were still outside by the cliff in their Meowth robot, mad at the fact that Ash had simply ignored them, and they were trying to think of a way to stop him. James couldn't think of anything, so Jesse proceeded to punish him by hitting him on the head with a hammer, and this actually gave him an idea, which was to fire a huge putty ball from the Meowth robot and have it chase after Ash, in an attempt to lure him out of the cave. Sure enough, when the ball was launched into one of the caves, it immediately began rolling straight towards Ash, leading Ash to run away in fear. Meanwhile, as for Koji, he had caught up to the Cyndaquil and was having his Sandslash try and weaken it with Poison Sting. But before the Poison Sting could make contact, Ash came running by with the ball following closely behind him. Seeing the Cyndaquil on the ground, he immediately grabbed it to save it from the ball's rolling rampage and continued to run. Koji, extremely focused on the Cyndaquil, chased after Ash, not noticing the ball behind him, and this caused him to get run over by the ball, being caught by surprise. With Koji seemingly dealt with, Ash and Pikachu continued running with Cyndaquil in Ash's arms, when suddenly, the ball deflected off a sharp edge in the cave, which caused it to crash directly into Ash at full speed, sending him flying out of the cave wall, since the ball exploded upon contact. Thankfully, Ash, Pikachu, and Cyndaquil were all uninjured from the blast, but things were still looking pretty bad for them, as they had of course landed right outside to where Team Rocket was in their Meowth robot. Team Rocket attacks by sending out another bubblegum bomb, and this one actually makes contact with Ash, gluing him, Pikachu, and Cyndaquil to a cliff wall. Team Rocket planned to just steal Pikachu, but upon noticing that Ash had actually managed to find the Cyndaquil, they decided to steal it as well. Upon hearing this, Ash tells the Cyndaquil to try and escape, as he manages to rip Cyndaquil free from the bubblegum. Why didn't he rip himself free, you may ask? Well, since he was glued to the cliff, if he got rid of the bubblegum, then he would just fall to his death, but Cyndaquil, on the other hand, could simply climb up with its claws. Cyndaquil obliges with no hesitation as it begins to make its way back up the cliff to retreat into a cave, but then the Meowth robot punches the cliff, blocking the entrance to the cave, almost hitting Cyndaquil in the process. Cyndaquil gets scared to the point where it can no longer move, even as Ash pleads it to. Team Rocket takes the opportunity to attack the frozen Cyndaquil as it goes in for another punch with the Meowth robot. However, just as the Pokédex stated, due to Cyndaquil's stress, the quills on its back start to heat up, causing flames to emerge. Cyndaquil attacks the robot with these newfound flames as they get stronger and stronger, developing into a flamethrower. And although it completely chars the outside, Team Rocket just laughs because they were still fine inside the control room. However, the control room then begins to spark, and smoke begins to fill, and the Meowth robot explodes, much to Team Rocket's dismay as they go blasting off. That means that Ash and Pikachu and Cyndaquil must have been destroyed in the explosion too, right? Well, no, because Ash foresaw the explosion coming, and he proceeded to have Pikachu use Thunderbolt to destroy the bubblegum, even though it meant that they would fall off in the process, and Ash would also get shocked by the Thunderbolt. Although this was reckless, as they could have fallen off the cliff, Ash did actually manage to grab on and not fall off. He then realized that Cyndaquil would get caught in the explosion as well, so he grabbed an empty Pokeball and threw it at him to catch Cyndaquil inside so that he could save him. Before Ash could grab the Pokeball, the explosion happened, and he was blasted away with Pikachu, but thankfully he was okay, because he was already pretty far down on the cliff at this point. Once the dust from the explosion had settled, Ash fully climbed down from the cliff, and was able to spot the Pokeball and retrieve it, letting out Cyndaquil in the process. I mean, I guess he technically had a new Pokemon now, and he congratulated his new Pokemon for its immense skill with its flamethrower attack. When the Cyndaquil smiles back, Ash realizes how friendly it was. It sure didn't seem simply mild-tempered, but maybe it was because it knew that Ash had saved it. Just then, Misty and Brock had finally reunited with Ash, finding him. They see that Cyndaquil was acting all friendly with Ash, and they question him if he actually managed to catch it, with Ash explaining the situation, stating that he just felt the need to catch the Cyndaquil to save it, and I guess that resulted in him becoming his Pokemon now. Koji overhears this as he comes running out of the cave with his Sandslash, having recovered from the Putty Ball, and demands that Ash hand over Cyndaquil, but Ash explains that he couldn't do that as he had already caught it. Koji readies his Sandslash to attack anyways, leading Ash to jump in front of Cyndaquil and shield him with his arms. Koji then asks Ash for a battle, and states that the winner would get Cyndaquil. Brock clarifies to Koji again, thinking he was just dumb or misunderstood or some shit, that since Ash already caught Cyndaquil, it was already his, so he couldn't give it up even if he wanted to. Ash then clarifies to Brock, though, that he could just simply give Koji Cyndaquil's Pokeball if Koji won, and then Koji would technically own Cyndaquil at that point, and he decides to accept Koji's challenge because he wanted to prove to him that Koji was being an asshole. He even decided to use Cyndaquil in the battle, believing that it might use its powerful flamethrower again. Koji then clarifies that the battle would be a one-on-one battle, which Ash was okay with, as the battle begins with him sending out Cyndaquil and Koji using his Sandslash. Unfortunately, though, as soon as the battle started, Cyndaquil had fallen asleep. This allowed Sandslash to go in for the first attack, Fury Swipes, but thankfully, Cyndaquil was able to wake up in time and dodge the attack. Sandslash then tried to attack with several slashes, but Cyndaquil just kept dodging as it jumped from nearby tree to nearby tree, causing the Sandslash to only slash the trees in the process. Ash is surprised at how fast the Cyndaquil was, as that's not something that the Pokédex stated, and he encourages Cyndaquil to keep dodging, and it does, causing the Sandslash to tire out. Ash took the opportunity to command Cyndaquil to use the flamethrower, but Cyndaquil couldn't, as just like the Pokédex stated, it needed to be under immense stress first, and Cyndaquil wasn't really stressed right now, as it was doing quite well. Seeing this as an opportunity to strike, Koji demands his Sandslash to continue fighting, regardless of its tiredness, as it continues to slash, but it still only manages to slash trees, as Cyndaquil continues to dodge, despite Ash still pleading for Cyndaquil to find a way to use its flamethrower instead. Sandslash then uses Sand Attack to get sand into Cyndaquil's eyes, and then uses a Swift Attack to land a direct hit. Why was this attack able to hit, you may ask? Well, it's because Ash had literally demanded the Cyndaquil to stop dodging and focus on the flamethrower, not knowing that it couldn't, so that simply left Cyndaquil as a sitting duck, so it got hit. Thankfully, Ash finally realizes that Cyndaquil couldn't use the flamethrower right now, so he tells Cyndaquil to go back to its dodging strategy. Unfortunately, Ash didn't realize quick enough, so it allowed Sandslash to still go in for another slash attack, which knocked Cyndaquil into a tree. Sandslash takes the opportunity to go in for one last Fury Swipe attack to finish off Cyndaquil, but Cyndaquil was finally able to dodge this as it hops into the air and causes Cyndaquil's claw from the Fury Swipe to get stuck into a tree, missing its target. Cyndaquil then lands down from the air, landing a tackle directly on Sandslash's head, knocking it out. Ash had won the battle and proceeded to brag to Koji about how much of an asshole Koji had been, and how Ash had just beat his ass. This just pissed Koji off further though, and he wasn't willing to give up the Cyndaquil, even though Ash had won fair and square, so he pulls out a net and tries to capture Cyndaquil inside, recalling Sandslash in the process. Fucking cunt. Ash just gets pissed off at this, maybe now more pissed off than Koji was at this point, stating that Koji was cheating, as he fucking lost the match, bro. You had to concede to defeat. Koji, being the cunt that he was, obviously didn't care, and continued to try and trap Cyndaquil in the net, but thankfully, this allowed Cyndaquil to actually get scared, which meant that it could actually use its flamethrower attack. This massive flamethrower burns Koji, and he runs away in fear. Ash congratulates Cyndaquil on finally using flamethrower again, and goes to hug him, but he almost burns himself, as the quills on its back were still hot, so when he hugs him, he tries his best not to touch the quills. Ash then happily lifts Cyndaquil into the air, declaring that he in fact had a new Pokémon. Let's go! Plot development. The episode then ends with a depressed Team Rocket, who were forced back into another construction job so that they could afford another machine. As they did their boring job, they looked up into the sky, where they saw stars. This just reminded them of their goal to become the stars of Team Rocket, and they became even more depressed when they realized that they were forced to do these boring-ass jobs instead.